Now, Clostridium botulinum, as we all know, it is responsible for producing a toxin, a deadly toxin. So, what is this Clostridium botulinum? It is a gram-positive bacteria, a gram-positive rod-shaped bacteria that produces different types of toxins. The best known are its neurotoxins. Neurotoxins means the toxins which paralyzes or which alters the nervous system. In particularly, it blocks the nerve muscular junction, or we can call it as a neuromuscular junction. So we can summarize or we can call it as a neurotoxin, which can be further subdivided into types as like type A, type B, type C, likewise to type G. That causes the flaccid muscular paralysis. So it is a type of paralysis. We'll discuss this in our session. It causes paralysis seen in botulism. There are also main paralytic agent in Botox. So Botox is a toxin that is synthesized by that. Clostridium botulinum is an anaerobic. Now this is very important or significant distinctiveness of this particular bacteria. It is an anaerobic bacteria. Anaerobic bacteria means the bacteria which grows or which thrives best in absence of oxygen. When there is lack of oxygen, only then they can grow. So generally we can see them in the packed and canned food. The food items that are transferred or that are been packed and transferred, in that case we can find them in more prevalence. So this Clostridium botulinum, they are anaerobic spore forming bacteria. Spore forming means they are able to form an endospore, a dormant structure which can be synthesized under the desiccating or the condition which is not favorable for that organism to grow. So under that condition, these organisms they produces an endospores. So Clostridium botulinum is an anaerobic spore forming bacteria which produces oval spore. So which type of spore it produces? It produces an oval spore, and it is subterminal endospore. Subterminal means it is the position of that spore in itself. So it is not to the center or not to the end, it is subterminal endospore. And this organism we can find it commonly in soil. So it is a soil borne bacteria which is gram negative, rod shaped, anaerobic bacteria, and which produces a deadly toxin called as a neurotoxin. Now, characteristics of this Clostridium botulinum, as we have discussed, they are a gram-positive bacteria. They are anaerobic bacilli. Bacilli means the rod-shaped bacteria, which here we can see in its staining. It is violet in color. That means it is gram-positive in nature. Its morphology is bacillus in shape. They are spore-forming. As we have discussed, they produces endospore. They produces a toxin, so that can be a deadly toxin, neurotoxin. They are heat sensitive. We'll study that they can resist a temperature around 100 degrees Celsius for few minutes as well. They prefer low acid environmental conditions. So generally seen in the canned and packed food. It causes botulism disease. Botulism, it's microbiology. Toxin produced by this bacterium, Clostridium botulinum. It is, as we have discussed, anaerobic, gram-positive, rod-shaped bacteria. Its size is, it ranges from zero point 0.5 to 2 micrometer in width and 1.6 to 22 micrometer in length. So here we can see its image. So it is a rod-shaped and thick rod-shaped bacteria. It creates the spores that can remain dormant for 30 years or even more than that. So these organisms, if the conditions are not favorable for their growth, they can enter into sporulating phase. So under well-fed condition, they are in their vegetative state. But if the conditions are not favorable, they can enter in sporulating phase. And these spores, these endospores, they can remain dormant for even longer than 30 years of its lifetime. These spores, they are extremely resistant to environmental stresses as like heat and ultraviolet light. The gram-positive obligate anaerobic bacillus. Obligate means they do not, or they have to strictly follow one diet. That is, they can grow only in absence of oxygen. If partial or some, we can say little amount of oxygen is available, they will immediately turn out into an dormant phase. So they are obligate anaerobic bacilli. They are spore forming, endospore forming, produces botulinum toxin. They are heat sensitive as bacilli. So generally, most of the bacillus, they are the seen which can produce the endospores, and they are generally heat sensitive. They prefers to grow at low acidic environmental conditions. Toxins toxins are liberated during the vegetative phase, that is during the normal growth phase. So we know the bacteria, they follow a life cycle, that is from what you can say lag, log, stationary, and then the death phase. So during this developmental phases or during this vegetative growth, this bacteria, they produces the toxins. 7 different types of toxins are known at least, that is toxin A, B through G. Now they may produce antigenic components, which is pretty similar like our antibody, that is having light chain and heavy chain. So this toxin, it also produces such toxins which is having light and heavy chain in it. The environmental survival, they can be inactivated by heat, say at 100 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. Means they can sustain even the temperature of 100 degrees Celsius, even the packed or even the temperature as good as boiling water temperature. And if it is not treated for more than 20 minutes, they can even survive or they can withstand that temperature condition. Most potential biological warfare agent. Why we are studying this in forensic biology? It is the reason that is it is one of the potent bio warfare agent. Its lethal dose, as we have discussed, it is 1 to 2 microgram. It can be sufficient to kill even many thousand peoples. Now this neurotoxin types. Neurotoxin types production is the unifying feature of this particular species, Clostridium botulinum. 7 types of toxins have been identified and they have been designated or they have been given the name as toxin A, toxin B, toxin C up till G. Most strain they produces only one type of neurotoxin, but there are even some strain which can produce multiple toxins. The toxin type have been designated BF, that is type B toxin was found in excess to type F toxin. So type B toxin is predominant than that of F toxin. Similarly, strain producing antibody and AF toxins have been reported. There are evidences that the neurotoxin genes have subjected to horizontal gene transfers. That is, possibly from viruses, these genes are migrated or they have been transferred horizontally to the bacteria. The bacteria which are in close contact with those bacteria or those viruses, they may have ended up with catching these genes. This theory is supported by the presence of integration site flanking the toxin in some of the strains of Clostridium botulinum. However, these integration sites are degraded, indicating that the Clostridium botulinum may have acquired this toxin genes quite far in the process of evolutionary development or evolutionary past. These toxins, botulinum toxins, is synthesized as a single polypeptide chain. So we can call it as an zymogen or a protein which is not functioning or inactive protein. It is a single polypeptide chain. As here it is mentioned, it is having low potency, that is the ability to infect. Its ability to infect is comparatively far lesser. But this toxin is nicked by an bacterial protease. As soon as this naive protein or this what you can say, initial polypeptide chain has been flanked or it has been broken down or cut by a bacterial protease, an enzyme which cuts the protein components or amino acids. We call it as a protease. So when this bacterial protease, they cleaves it, they produces two chains. One chain is light chain called as an A fragment, and the other chain is heavy chain called as an B fragment. Both these fragments, they are joined together by disulfide bonds. So this bacterial proteases, they break down this disulfide linkages and they activates or they make this deadly toxin. The A fragment of the Nick toxin, it becomes the most potent toxin which is found in this or found in nature. Now these toxins, they are absorbed through gastrointestinal tract. So where from we get or where from these toxins they are ending or entering. So maybe the through soil, this bacteria they may end or enter in our body and may reside in the gastrointestinal tract. It may be entered through IV or through other route into the blood or peripheral neuromuscular synapses through wound or such openings. What it does is at presynaptic area, that is, we'll discuss this in coming slide, that is the nerve cells and muscle cells, they interact, and that area we call it as in synapse. So the presynaptic area where this nerve cells, they releases acetylcholine, and this acetylcholine, there has to integrate, there has to be interact with the muscle cells, and at that point they require the help of some proteins called as in sneer proteins. So what this toxins does is they proteolyze or they break down these sneer proteins, which thus blocks the interaction of this nerve cells with that of the muscle cells, leading to paralysis. So what is the end of this infection? So suppose anyone caught with this neuro or caught with this botulinum toxin, what will happen? So it will lead to the paralysis. How it lead to paralysis? It blocks this sneer proteins which connects this nerve cells with the muscle cells. Now these sneer proteins, they are of different types. You can see them in the next slide. They are of at least three types: synaptobrevin proteins, SNAP25 proteins, and syntaxin proteins. Pathogenesis, they are transmitted in three ways, as we have discussed: through food or water toxin contamination, or they can be transmitted through wound infection, or through injection of, or deliberately or purposefully, or uh, because of some carelessness in the hospital or somewhere, there may be injection of Clostridium botulinum. So there are three routes through which it can be intoxicated or it can enter inside a body: through food, through wound, or through purposeful injection. Most common is the contaminated food. So that is in particular the vacuumed or packed food. So generally the canned food, they are the main source where we can find this Clostridium botulinum. And in that particularly the alkaline food. So if the food was not properly cooked or not properly packed, in that case, this bacteria can grow. Even you can try this at home if you have a steel vessel, airtight. If you pack it out and keep as such for say for a longer period of time, and then you open up, it stills. That is because of the, not because necessarily of Clostridium botulinum, but a group of family members of Clostridium family like Titania and other things. Example: this fish, green beans, or any home canned food. So packed food or canned food, they are the main source of infection. Even the foods which are eaten without cooking or improperly cooked food, they can be a source of infection. Here we can see this interaction of a nerve cell with that of the muscle cell. So this is a nerve cell. What nerve cell does is it produces such types of vesicles. So we call these vesicles as in synaptic vesicles. In this synaptic vesicles, these green color granules or droplets like balls, they are the acetylcholine. Now this sneer or this synaptic vesicles, they have to interact with this muscle cells. So here we can see these are the muscle cells, and these muscle cells, they have a receptor upon which this acetylcholine they comes and interact, and thus it gives a signal for muscle fiber to contract. So when this nerve cell, it gives the signal in the form of acetylcholine, this acetylcholine, they have to interact with this muscle, and for interacting they require these snare proteins. So this fibrous protein, here we can see they are synaptobrevin, SNAP25 and syntaxin. So this together snare proteins, what they does is they take this vesicle from nerve cell and they make it to interact with the muscle cell. So this snare proteins, they are playing vital role in fusing this vesicle with that of the muscle cells. So this is under a normal neuromuscular transmitter release, or under normal nerve to muscle cell interaction. But when this toxin is been exposed, or if the cell is been insulted with this bacillus toxin, so what will happen? This toxin, here we can see this toxin, it is present over here. This toxin, it fuses or it may release out in the form of vesicles, and this heavy and light chain of this toxin, they can be separated. So here we will see this light chain, it is flanking or it is present on the surface of this vesicle, while the heavy chain, it is integrated on the internal part or internal side of this vesicle. So this light chain, which is produced by different types of, or which produces different types of toxins, and that what they does is they cleave these snare proteins. So they cleaves this snare proteins by the activity of proteolysis, and thus they do not make or do not allow this acetylcholine containing vesicles to interact with that of the muscle cells. So that is neurotransmitter, they are not released in the muscle cells, leading to muscle paralysis. That is muscle fiber paralysis. We can call it as an flaccid paralysis. So the toxin, how it affects, or what is the cause, or what is the effect of this toxin is, it do not allow this neuromuscular junction to take place. Thus this acetylcholine are not entering in the muscle cells. Thus this muscle cell are not getting a signal to contract or move. Thus the cells are paralyzed. So we call it as an flaccid type of paralysis or muscle fiber paralysis. Now pathogenesis of infant botulinum or botulism. So which is generally caused by Clostridium botulinum. Generally the age group is 5 to 25 weeks of age, characterized by constipation and weak sucking. It leads to SIDS, that is sudden infant death syndrome. This causative agents, or it can be found in the stool of that patient. Pathogenesis, the toxin, it must enter a body. So how it can enter, we have discussed that it have three different routes: through food, or through wound, or through deliberate injection into the body. So direct toxin absorption from mucosal surface can take place, like through GI tract or gut, that is foodborne infection, or it can enter through lungs through inhalation. So these toxins can spread through air, and if such aerosols or such air has been inhaled by, it can end up, or it can enter into the lung, and thus it can spread, or it can infect the lungs and the other part of the body. By a toxin produced by the infection with Clostridium botulinum, so it is through skin breaks, that is through wound or cuts, after trauma, or after an IV drug, that is intravenous drug injection. Through gut or intestinal botulinum would not be seen in BT events, as toxins would be used. In such types of cases are not generally seen. Does not penetrate the intact skin. Here we can see that our first line of defense, it is blocking this infection. So this bacteria, it cannot infect directly if there is no cut, or it is an through the normal dermal system. Pathogenesis, the estimated lethal human dose, the crystalline type of, that is A toxin, It has been estimated that 0.09 to 0.15 microgram given through IV or intramuscular, that is intravenous or intramuscular, it can be poisonous, it can be harmful. Even 0.7 to 0.9 microgram through inhalation can be dreadful. And 70 microgram through oral route can be harmful. So here we can see the most least quantity is through IV, or that is intravascular or intramuscular. Through any of them, they can cause severe infection. Now symptoms, generally they appear immediately after 18 to 24 hours of infection. So what are the symptoms? There is an blurry vision, or we can say double vision. The person can't see properly, and the objects what he see, they are doubled. So two objects he find at the same times. Next is the dry mouth. There is a trouble in swallowing, trouble in breathing, and there is muscle weakness. Fever is not a symptom of botulism. So this is a rare condition or a type of condition where the person or the patient may not have a fever symptoms. So generally to diagnose or to identify these types of infection, there are classical triads, that is symmetric. Symmetric means symmetrically both the sides of the patients they are infected, or the paralysis starts to show its effect on both the sides of the axis. Then descending flaccid paralysis, that is the paralysis starts from the head and it keeps on moving to the lower part of the body. Descending flaccid paralysis with prominent bulbar paralysis. Bulbar paralysis, we'll see there are 4 different types of conditions in which they can be seen. Next is afebrile, that is no fever. Then clear sensorium, that is all the sense organs they are functioning. So they are the signs of these infections. Bulbar palsises, they are summarized as 4 Ds. They are diplopia, dysarthria, dysphonia, and dysphagia. What are these terms? So these are symmetric descending, that is cranial nerve first, then upper extremities, then the respiratory muscles, and lower extremities. That is, it keeps on moving from head to the lower part of the body. It causes flaccid paralysis with prominent bulbar paralysis, which are shown by these 4 conditions. Diplopia, that is double vision. Dysarthria means there is an problem with articulation or speaking. Dysphonia, difficulty in production of the voice. Or dysphagia, there is a difficulty in swallowing the food. The patient is afebrile, that is do not show the fever. The patient is sensible, intact, that is the cognitive functions, they are generally not affected. Now signs of foodborne and botulinism, that is ventilatory or respiratory problems may be seen. The eye muscles paralysis is seen. Extraocular or eyelids can be seen. Dry mucous membrane in mouth and throat. The dilated and fixed pupil can be seen. Ataxia, hypotension, nystagmus, and decrease to absent deep tendon reflexes are the signs of foodborne or wound botulism. Diagnostic, laboratory diagnosis, it can be done by carrying out the toxins. If they are found in the serum and the leftover food, they can be used in the diagnosis, in the laboratory diagnosis. Generally, the mice injected with toxins, they die rapidly. In infants, they can be found in the stool. The brain scan, the spinal fluid examinations are generally the other types of diagnosis which are recommended. So which can lead to nerve conductions. So all these tests are recommended in laboratory diagnosis. The clinical diagnosis. So diagnostic test, they helps to confirm, that is toxin neutralization, mouse bioassays they are performed. The serum, the stool or suspected food they are collected. In case with the infant botulism, Clostridium botulinum toxins or toxins in feces, they can be seen or they can be tested. Testing is done in reference to laboratories under biosafety regulations. Now, the treatment for these types of infection, so there are trivalent toxins or antitoxins, they are available, that is A, B, and E. So, against these three different types of toxin, the antitoxins, they are synthesized by using the different modes or different mechanisms. Even recombinant toxins are also available nowadays. So, trivalent ABE antitoxins must be administered intravenously, and recovery may take place after several weeks. The mechanical respirator is administered if required. That is antitoxin action. The foodborne botulinum, in that case, neutralizing the antibody level which exceeds the toxin levels, can be seen or they can be administered depending upon the dose. The single dose is generally adequate. Upon large exposure, example in case with the biological weapons, can confirm the adequacy of neutralization depending upon the type of infection, the level of infection. Recheck the toxin level after the treatment, and if it still persists, we'll have to provide the secondary dose. Antitoxins side effect, it can cause serum sickness or it can be produce type 1 hypersensitivity, that is anaphylaxis. Prevention, what preventive measures can be done? So generally the natural disease is as it is a soil borne, or it can be spread through the food and other contaminants. So generally boil the home or canned food for at least 10 minutes. Follow the US food drug instructions, USDA instructions for home canning, how it should be done, how it should be packed on, how it should be transported and all, what care should be taken. We must follow those guidelines. Restrict the use of honey for the infants which are lesser than or which are below the 1 year age. So generally it has been seen that this may cause infection, but again there is a strong what you can say dilemma between the group of scientists that it may or may not cause the infection. So the raw honey are taken up directly from the field and given to the child which is below the age of 1, it may cause the clostridium infection. And seek medical care for the wound. If you have the exposed wound, try to avoid direct contact with the soils and other contaminated food. Avoid injectable street drugs. So this is enough for today. If you have any question, you can ask.